By the late 1990s, the Batman film series had reached a critical and commercial low point. Studios prioritized a campy, style-over-drama approach that nearly ended the character's cinematic life. In 2003, Warner Brothers moved to reboot the franchise. They sought to move away from comic book fantasy and toward a grounded, contemporary reality that audiences could recognize. The studio hired Christopher Nolan to lead this transformation. At the time, he was primarily known for making lean, independent thrillers on very small budgets. Nolan's strategy for the reboot was to discard the standard genre rules. He rebuilt Bruce Wayne's world using the specific narrative mechanics of neo-noir and tech-noir. The intellectual framework for this massive franchise was actually tested years earlier during Saturday shoots in London on a $6,000 budget. This diagram outlines the three core pillars of neo-noir: moral ambiguity, intense paranoia, and a deeply flawed protagonist. These stories typically feature characters making desperate choices within a nihilistic moral system. Nolan first mastered these techniques in his 1998 debut, Following. He used a non-linear plot to keep the audience uncertain about the characters and true motivations. He applied this exact same psychological focus to Bruce Wayne. This version of the character is definitely not a perfect hero, but a traumatized vigilante who often employs illegal and morally dubious tactics to achieve his ends. To hide this crusade, Wayne puts on the facade of a shallow, dim-witted playboy. It's a classic noir disguise used to ward off suspicion and protect his secret life. By prioritizing drama over style, Nolan successfully placed a flawed neo-noir detective at the center of a mainstream action series. Making his film Following on a micro-budget meant Christopher Nolan couldn't afford professional lighting. He relied on 16mm black and white film and available street light to create a high-contrast, gritty look. In the Dark Knight trilogy, he used his experience with available light photography to make darkness feel like an active, predatory force, used by Batman to strike fear into his enemies. The high-contrast visual style of Nolan's Gotham traces back to the technical solutions he developed while shooting his first feature with limited resources. Tech noir intersects grim, urban detective stories with futuristic technology, a hybrid genre presenting tech as a potentially destructive force. Here, military-grade prototypes replace the traditional noir toolkit. Advanced armor and tactical gear become modern versions of the classic detective's equipment. However, this advanced technology often turns and works against the city itself. Paranoia slowly grows as villains weaponize Gotham's own infrastructure, using its water supply and communication networks to induce mass hysteria. The Tumbler Batmobile is the physical embodiment of this collision, a brutal, high-tech military vehicle used to navigate a dark urban landscape. In a tech-noir setting, advanced technology rarely provides a simple solution. Instead, it raises the stakes of the existing moral conflict. The Dark Knight trilogy grossed over $2 billion. It proved that global audiences would respond to a superhero series that functioned as a dense psychological thriller. In Nolan's first film, Following, the story ends with the protagonist being manipulated into taking the fall for a murder he did not commit. Nolan used the same structural beat to end The Dark Knight. Batman chooses to be hunted by the police and take the blame for another man's crimes to preserve a symbol of justice for the city. This type of tragic, sacrificial ending is a hallmark of the noir genre, where the hero must often make a morally complex compromise to achieve a greater goal. By applying the conventions of neo-noir to the superhero origin, Christopher Nolan provided a complete character arc that restored the public's interest in Batman.